Not releasing the Epstein files. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't care what you do. Start a war. Just don't let them get out. If I go down, I will bring all of you down with me.
When the most recent batch of records connected to Jeffrey Epstein started to surface, a single name jumped off the page in a way that felt like a glitch in the Matrix. It wasn't the name of a politician or a movie star, at least not a modern one. One of the accounts was labeled BAAL. Now, for the average person, that might look like a random set of letters, but for anyone who has spent time looking into ancient history or religious texts, that name carries a weight that is almost too heavy to process. In the book of Jeremiah, Baal is described as a false god to whom people once made unthinkable sacrifices. So when investigators found that exact name tied to Epstein's financial activity, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it sent a chill down the spine of the internet. It felt like a confirmation of a theory many have been too afraid to speak aloud, that this wasn't just a network of predatory behavior, but something much darker.
Among the documents released on January 30th, one particular record involving a money transfer quickly drew attention from online users and investigators alike. In that document, Epstein reportedly requested that an amount of over $11,000 be wired to a bank account identified under the unusual name Baal, which immediately raised suspicion. Screenshots showing the alleged payment instructions circulated widely on X, where users began sharing theories involving possible links to so-called demonic or occult practices.
This is exactly where voices like Katt Williams enter the chat. Katt has been on a literal warpath lately, exposing what he calls the suppliers of Hollywood. In his now legendary interviews, he hasn't just hinted at shady behavior, he has flat out stated that guys like Epstein and Harvey Weinstein are providing something specific to a group of extremists at the top of the food chain. Katt's revelations suggest that the entertainment industry isn't just about movies and music, it's about a fantasy island environment where the wealthiest people on Earth can indulge in their darkest impulses. When you combine Katt's warnings with the discovery of the BAAL account, the picture stops looking like a series of isolated crimes and starts looking like a coordinated effort to hide a ritualistic underworld.
Everybody is a supplier. Epstein, Weinstein, like these guys knew what these extremists liked and provided it, and provided the way for you to to have $1 billion and not create a fantasy island type environment has not existed throughout history.
Right.
But the documents didn't stop at strange bank names. They led investigators into a digital correspondence that felt completely surreal. People online began dissecting emails that on the surface looked like mundane grocery lists or catering requests, but the language used was just off. Phrases about transporting beef jerky, sending it to labs, or walking it over to people appeared in oddly repetitive ways. Teigen, a staple in the high society circles that Epstein moved in, has a history of tweets that, in the light of the Epstein files, look absolutely haunting. We're talking about public posts where she joked about going to jail over pizza, or made disturbing comments about the show Toddlers and Tiaras, saying that seeing the little girls in pageants made her want to put herself in jail.
Epstein files connections and Chrissy Teigen. First, let's talk about how in an interview she said she would eat.
If you were at a very fancy restaurant, a human, you wouldn't try a tiny bite? Really?
Absolutely not.
Is that terrible?
Let's not forget the tweets of her saying if you could eat this one bite of it, you could eat any other meat for the rest of your life. Or eat turkey forever, and she would choose. And watching the show Toddlers and Tiaras, she said, seeing little girls do this half, I just want to put myself in. She said, I'm going to jail over pizza. We all know what pizza is now. I'm bored. Really want to watch Give Birth. I'm about to Anthony Weiner this kid. That is somebody who got in trouble for doing bad things with very young people. He just said the cleanest and best pleasure is to, with a water slide that goes through a shark tank, time to get mine on. I saw a baby that looked like a has she do anything kind of. Is this wrong to think? A little in the pageant now. Eye candy for me. She said, I like to add a pinch of baby powder to the flour when I fry chicken. So it smells like, just read the rest. Went to the children's aquarium looking like a PDF. In this interview, they asked her where's the best place that she did it. She said the best was the Obama thing and then got in trouble.
Then there was the infamous swollen lip post. test. Teigen shared a photo of her face looking distorted, claiming it was an allergic reaction to an orange. The internet, being the digital detective agency that it is, immediately pulled up photos of Epstein himself with the exact same facial distortion. When the Unsealed files mentioned certain consumables that led to physical reactions, the orange excuse started to look very thin. It's these coincidences that keep viewers clicking. The idea that the truth isn't hidden in a vault, but hidden in plain sight, masked as dark humor.
She posted this of a swollen lip, claiming it to be pesticides from an orange. Epstein also got swollen lips. From consuming what exactly? She said it was just an orange, so probably just an orange. Putting her thumbs up at the Grammys because Nicki Minaj wasn't there. Nicki Minaj tells us she has an eggplant, allegedly. She also had pizza in her Snapchat name, posting things like this and this. Room service was too expensive, so she brought her own hot dogs to a hotel. Go look up what hot dog means. Deli Roll was talking about Jesus, and look at how annoyed she is. This was her face during the whole speech. She looked so mad. Just go watch the clip.
However, if you want to understand the true scale of this, you have to look beyond the celebrities and toward the handlers. Investigative journalists like Whitney Webb have been screaming from the rooftops that Epstein wasn't the boss. He was a tool. Webb's research suggests that Epstein was essentially a high-level intelligence asset, a man whose job was to build a honeypot operation to gather dirt on the most powerful people in the world. This brings us to figures like Elon Musk. While Musk projects a one of the bros persona on X, Webb points out that he is essentially a massive military and intelligence contractor. To keep those lucrative government subsidies, you have to play by a very specific set of rules. The Epstein files show communications and connections that suggest Musk may not have been as distant from the circle as he'd like the public to believe. The question isn't just who went to the island, but who was backing the man who owned it.
I see Elon Musk as a person who has like a very specific persona he wants to project to the public, and then there's business Musk, right? And I don't think they're necessarily always the same person. So, for example, Elon Musk, a lot of people maybe forget, he's a big military contractor. And also, the Space Force, that's also an intelligence agency, so he's technically a military and intelligence contractor. In order to keep your contracting business with those things, there's certain rules you have to play by, and certain things, I would assume, you can and can't say, or you'll lose those lucrative contracts. And if you look at someone like Elon Musk and his business history, a lot of his companies would not have been successful, would not have been successful without significant subsidies from the government. So, I feel like in order to get those deals, there's certain rules you have to abide by to an extent, at least when it comes to your business decisions and certain things, right? So maybe he wants to project, this persona of like, I'm one of the bros, I'm one of the guys, I believe in free speech and all of this. And certainly when he bought Twitter, that's what he said, but then it became, free speech, but not freedom of reach. And now it's sort of changing again with the appointment of this new CEO. And again, I don't really have any high hopes, and I didn't necessarily when Musk bought Twitter, just because I tend to be kind of skeptical, and I guess you could probably say cynical about these types of people. And, I personally, just from my own, experience with Epstein research, I have found Musk not to be very upfront about some of those connections there.
The recruitment process for this network was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Take the story of Rina Oh, a young student and aspiring artist who was introduced to Epstein in the early 2000s. To her, he wasn't a predator. He was a billionaire philanthropist who wanted to open doors for her in the art world. He paid her tuition, provided her with a New York apartment, and made her feel like she was part of the elite. But as Rina soon found out, nothing with Epstein was free. This was a system of manufactured dependency. By providing these young women with everything they needed to succeed, Epstein ensured they could never leave. Rina's testimony is a window into how the Baal philosophy worked in practice, taking talent and vulnerability and sacrificing it at the altar of power. She witnessed Epstein traveling to foreign countries to engage in illicit acts with children who didn't even have names in the files, referred to as only foreign nationals.
Rina Oh was a young student when she was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein back in 2000. She was an aspiring young artist, and she was actually hoping that he might be able to open some professional doors for her in the art world.
He paid her university tuition fees and provided her with an apartment in New York, but Rina soon discovered nothing with Epstein comes for free.
And she joins us now to tell us her story. Rina, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. As with all of the horrible stories of these women, girls, teenagers, children, it all starts off relatively innocently in the mind of the victim, who thinks, here's a benefactor, somebody, or Ghislaine, somebody's going to do something for me out of the goodness of their heart because they see that I have talent. And that is literally how you got hooked in, wasn't it?
That's exactly how he coerced me. He told me right away that he thought I had amazing talent and that he was a philanthropist and he wanted to help me. And he told me he wasn't expecting anything from me at all, which didn't turn out to be the case, unfortunately.
And how soon was it after you met him that you realised that this was something much darker and much more complex?
It escalated from the first day. It took me a very long time to understand what was happening to me was wrong. And for me to put it in a timeline, I can't really give you an exact time, but by the time I went with him to Palm Beach, Florida, I saw the inner workings of what really went on in his home life because I was staying with him for a week. And that's when I realized how dark it could be, except that a lot of these things that he told me about, he did this outside of the United States. So I actually didn't witness it, but Jeffrey Epstein told me what he was into, and it's beyond what I've seen or heard from other victims and interviews. These are unnamed girls that are foreign. They're in foreign countries. He disclosed that he traveled to foreign countries to commit illicit acts with children.
Then there is the bizarre recorded footage involving Steve Bannon and Epstein. This wasn't an interrogation. It felt more like an attempt to rebrand Epstein's image, but it backfired spectacularly. In the clip, Epstein is asked point blank if his money is dirty. His response? A cold, mathematical deflection. He talked about ethics as a complicated subject and used his donations to polio eradication as a shield. But the most chilling moment came when Bannon asked if Epstein thought he was the devil himself. Epstein didn't flinch. He didn't say no. He simply said, "I have a good mirror," and asked why anyone would say that. He didn't speak like a man who was ashamed. He spoke like a man who understood the systems of power better than the people who were supposed to be running them. He saw himself as a necessary evil, a supplier for the gods of industry.
Is your money dirty money?
If you live,
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money?
No, it's not. So, in fact,
why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it.
But you earned it. We went back to this before. You earned it. You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
You think it's a legitimate question?
Yes, no question. Because I think ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped these people.
If we walked into, you're a mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from class 3 predator?
Tier 1.
Tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm the lowest. I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, Tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate would say, "I don't care. I want the money for my children"?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them, if I told them the devil,
100%.
the devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
This brings us to the political bombshells that the media has been trying to bury. One of the most controversial claims involves Melania Trump. According to Michael Wolff, a biographer who claims to have spoken with Epstein extensively, it was actually Epstein who introduced Melania to Donald Trump. When this claim was repeated by Hunter Biden in a smirking interview on Channel 5, Melania's legal team threatened a $1 billion lawsuit.
So now we're here, maybe to give you the platform to apologize to the First Lady for your statements that you made about her possible connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
That. That's not going to happen.
Hunter Biden crassly brushed off First Lady Melania Trump's threat to sue him for $1 billion if he doesn't retract what she is calling false and defamatory comments, linking her to late pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The former First Son made the comment with a smirk on his face during an interview on the YouTube show Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan on Thursday. Hunter Biden had appeared in an interview on the same show just 1 week prior, on August 5th, where he first made the controversial claim.
I mean, Epstein introduced Melania to Trump. The connections are like so wide and deep.
Hunter Biden went on to defend his past comments in the newly released interview, saying the information came from claims made by Donald Trump biographer Michael Wolff, which he cited later in the initial interview.
According to his biographer, is that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania. That's how Melania and the First Lady and the President met.
Really?
Yeah.
Epstein made the intro.
Yeah, according to Michael Wolff.
But here's the kicker. The lawsuit never happened. Instead, Melania released an incredibly defensive statement denying she was ever a victim or a participant. She claimed she only met Epstein once in 2000, yet her own emails to Ghislaine Maxwell, where she signed off with "Love Melania" and called Ghislaine a sweet pea, suggest a much more casual and friendly rapport.
It is rare to hear the First Lady talk about anything other than her charities, but tonight from the White House, she sensationally spoke out on a subject which has tarnished her husband's presidency.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
She insisted, contrary to some online rumors, she did not have a relationship with Epstein and he did not introduce her to Donald Trump.
I am not Epstein's victim. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings.
She also denied her email, released in the Epstein files to his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, showed a close relationship, despite her asking Maxwell to give her a call and signing off, "Love Melania."
My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence.
The message was clear, even if the timing and motive weren't.
I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop.
She finished with this plea for action.
I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors.
Her sudden statement has confounded many here in Washington who wonder why the First Lady has breathed life back into a story which in recent weeks has been eclipsed by the war with Iran.
The modeling world was the primary hunting ground for this network. Research into elite modeling management reveals a terrifying crossover between the fashion industry and the Epstein circle. In 1991, a Look of the Year pageant featured a judging panel that included Donald Trump, Epstein's known associates, and David Copperfield. The girls being judged were often as young as 14. One of the contestants in 1992 was a young Melania. The connection here isn't just social, it's structural. Names like Jean-Luc Brunel, the notorious French model scout who eventually offed himself in a jail cell, were the bridges between the runways of Paris and the beaches of Little St. James. When Katt Williams says everyone is a supplier, he's talking about this massive infrastructure designed to funnel eye candy to the elite.
I've always gotten the feeling that he was particularly sensitive about Melania in this story, and that was a big part of the reason why he has really distanced himself from it, in addition to the fact that he was a friend of Epstein's and he's been accused in connection to Epstein to assault. But I always sensed that there was something about his wife that made him very uncomfortable with the story because, Melania...
He's obviously denied any wrongdoing.
Right. Both of them have, and or any connection, really. But Melania came into the world through the same world that Jeffrey Epstein, and came into the world that Donald Trump was in, the modeling, 90s kind of world where he met Melania through Paolo Zampoli, who owned a modeling agency like Epstein did. And Epstein and Paolo were rivals and friends at the same time. And, Epstein a lot of women through this modeling agency from Eastern Europe. And, a lot of the way that they did this was that they withheld visas and access. The person who actually propelled Melania's modeling career, Antoine Verglas, the one who shot her inside of President Trump's plane for the famous GQ modeling shoot where she's just naked on that rug, he remained very close to Jeffrey Epstein after he was, prosecuted, indicted, and went to jail for soliciting a prostitution. Antoine Verglas, it's in the files. They spend time together. I reported on this for Vanity Fair, and he shot Melania about 11 times in her most iconic photos, many of them nude. So she has a lot of really close connections to Jeffrey Epstein, not only the fact that she clearly had a very friendly relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, which you can see in the files. They're sending emails to each other. She's calling her Ghislaine called her Sweet Pea. I don't think she can make this blanketed statement that she knew she was not in any way associated with him.
Even Brett Ratner, a powerhouse director in Hollywood, found himself caught in the web. During an interview with Piers Morgan, Ratner tried to explain a photo of himself with Epstein and two young women.
But Melania director Brett Ratner made a mistake on Piers Morgan and said something that is so revealing you honestly need to see it to believe it, because this opens up a doorway to a much larger conversation.
As you know, a picture came out of you with Jeffrey Epstein with two apparently young women in it. What is your response to that picture?
Oh, well, that picture in particular happened around 20 years ago, 19, 20 to 21 years ago, because that is a photograph of my fiance who invited me to this event, and that's where the picture was taken. I had never been in contact with Jeffrey Epstein before that photo, and I was never in contact with him after. So that's a picture of me and my fiance at some event.
So who was the fiance, if you don't mind me asking?
She doesn't want me sharing her name in the case, but that's my fiance, 100%. Was my fiance.
But you're not still. I'm not.
I was
going to say you're not still with.
He said this was his fiance. He also said it was 19, 20, or 21 years ago. This has a lot of people confused because from 2004 to 2006, he was dating Serena Williams. Now, I was confused as well, so I went into the files and I found this from the New York Post. Now that his romance with Serena Williams has gone south, director Brett Ratner seems to be settling down with his former gal pal. He's been flashing a massive canary yellow diamond engagement ring Ratner recently gave her, we're told. She is a Romanian stunner who used used to date reclusive billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. She dated Jeff Epstein, then she dated Brett Ratner, then he dated Serena Williams, then he went back to her and allegedly they were engaged. Without Jeffrey, she never would have gotten a job with Victoria's Secret, and it also says she used to be with Formula One driver Eddie Irvine. Here's the thing, Eddie Irvine is also in the files. He used to run with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. The man who went on record saying that he saw Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Virginia Giuffre. You dig in and you see that in 1998, Alina Pascal won the Elite Model look. You find out that Elite Model look, which goes down to girls that are 14 years old, is run by Elite Model Management out of France. Interesting because we also have a picture of Brett Ratner with one of the most notorious and pedophiles ever out of Europe and the French modeling industry. That's Jean-Luc Brunel. See, Elite Model Management was founded in 1972 by head of John Casablancas, who has been directly tied to both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. John and Donald Trump and alleged Epstein accomplice David Copperfield and rapist Gerald Marie, who was in charge of their European division, were all judges in 1991. You think that this pig billionaire chose to surround himself with young girls. I don't know who else was a Look of the Year contestant. Melania Trump, who finished second in 1992 in the Slovenian heat, almost making it to the finals.
So why, after all these unsealed documents and viral exposés, is the legal system so quiet? The answer lies in the 2006 sweetheart plea deal.
This type of figure exists basically in every country, in every industry, and they're not all as prominent as Epstein, but I would argue people like Mark Rich and at the time Bruce Rappaport kind of were. They don't all have, these
that's the thing.
Type things.
This is the thing is like what he was connected with. It makes me wonder, like if he didn't have that sick thing where he liked age girls, like if he'd never gotten arrested, which was what 2008 or something. When did he initially get arrested?
2006, but
2006.
But he was the plea deal was 2008. Yeah.
So if that hadn't happened, like if you just got a guy who's getting of age prostitutes, we probably never hear about this.
Yeah. Given Jeffrey Epstein's, involvement through, the early 2000s Clinton era and everything, given his involvement in everything from Israeli to Saudi to British to French high-level government officials, Jeffrey Epstein was investigated by the SEC in the 1980s. He was one of the two people who ran the biggest Ponzi scheme in history at the time in the United States, the Towers financial collapse. Epstein's business partner goes to jail for like 30 years or 20 years or whatever. But Epstein skates completely free. Epstein gets involved in this huge fraud in the U.S. Virgin Islands with this, like $1 billion fraud case in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Never prosecuted for any of it. Why is that? Well, one is, he may have, we know in the U.S. Virgin Islands case, he was sponsoring the campaigns, basically, of the politicians there. The prosecutors answered to the politicians. Could be that. But I would be shocked if they're in 40 years of this Where's Waldo, Forrest Gump, he's always in the room, in 40 years of American foreign policy and intelligence activity, money sourcing for that, for all the crimes that Epstein committed, the concern was the same one they had with Rolando Masfer. Don't bring the case, and if you do, bring it in a highly limited way. And that's exactly what happened in 2006, the first time he was indicted. Everybody was up in arms that it was a sweetheart plea deal. It gave protection to all co-conspirators, known and unknown. And it was swooped in quickly before, there was a trial in full, so that lines of evidence couldn't be opened.
As Katt Williams warned us, this is a world of extremists who have $1 billion and nothing to do but create fantasy island environments. The discovery of the BAL account and the ritualistic undertones of the unsealed files suggest that we're only scratching the surface of what was really happening on that island. Is it possible that the sacrifices mentioned in ancient texts never actually stopped, but simply moved into high-rise penthouses and private jets? The law may never be able to chase these people down, as they hold the keys to the very gates of justice. But the more these names surface and the more voices like Katt's refuse to be silenced, the harder it becomes for them to hide in the shadows. Do you think we will ever see the full list of names, or are the people on it simply too powerful to fail? One thing is for sure, the truth is no longer a secret. It's a roar that the elite can no longer ignore.